So I think this movie's biggest problem when it comes to the dividing of like fanboys and like critics is the fact this movie itself is based off of multiple series.
Mm-hmm.
The Dark Knight Returns, which is heavily like basically the most beloved Batman story of all time. The Death of Superman. But I think the problem is, okay, what did they rip from The Dark Knight Returns? They ripped Old Man Batman, and they ripped the fight. The problem is, in both versions, that old Batman character is more well-rounded and more likable than this one. The fight scene in The Dark Knight Returns has a more natural and ideological fight between the two. It's not just, oh, I'm fighting to save my mom, and I'm fighting because I don't like you. That's just not very thought. There's no depth in that fight. It's two very simple, I hate you, I need to save someone. That's it. That's a normal villain and hero fight. But like in Dark Knight Returns, it is more based off of like morals, who they think is right, and they're like, Superman doesn't want to fight Batman, but he has to.
Yeah.
In this movie, it's more like he doesn't want to kill Batman, but he will fight him. Because he was going to fight him anyway. He already threatened to kill him. He was like...
Next time they shine your light in the sky, don't go to it. The bat is dead. Bury it. Consider this mercy.
And then all of a sudden he has a problem with doing it when Lex is like, well, we gotta save her mom. He's like, but I don't want to hurt him. Well, then why did you crash his goddamn car and threaten him to like never come back as Batman?
Yeah.
To be fair, Death of Superman, not the best aged comic book, especially because The Reign of Superman ruined that entire series. If you're gonna take an iconic moment, can you do it fucking better? Because it's like, oh, Doomsday and Superman, fuck, they beat each other to death, like it's a punishing fight, and in this movie they just stab each other. One, the death doesn't last. Even at the end of the movie, they're like, he's gonna come back.
Mm-hmm.
They can't even end the movie with, shit, if the dirt didn't move, that'd be a little bit more of a, like, you think it's gonna move, and then it just doesn't. That would be better. I would still assume he's coming back for Justice League. Because like, he has to. I think they should, if they were going to kill off Superman, I'm not against killing off main characters. I think you can kill a main character once. You can kill off a main character once, and you can bring him back once. Well, I mean, you can kill off as many main characters as you want, as long as it makes sense, but you can only bring back a character once. Because if you start bringing back characters over and over again, what's the point of death? That's why no one cares about death in comic books anymore.
Right.
This is becoming a comic book movie. Not a movie based off of a comic book. They're unnecessarily complicated and overdone like comic books.
Right. Because you said that, that reminded me. I think that's exactly why they didn't kill any of the heroes off in Civil War. Because in the comics, Captain America does die. Mm-hmm. And I think Marvel recognized that if they killed him then, they wouldn't have been able to bring him back for... Well, they would bring him back for Infinity War, but it would have been pointless.
Right.
So they made the right decision. And just killing off your main character and then immediately bringing them back for the next movie, then it's pointless. And like it or not, whatever your thoughts are about the Death of Superman's story, it did change comics forever. Because that's when people realized, like, oh my god, like, characters can die.
Like, anyone can die. The problem is, that same story proved anyone can come back.
Yep. And we're kind of getting that right now. I mean...
Now the movies are doing it.
I don't know if he'll come back in that. I would love to see him come back in that. Just as a callback to the comics. But when he comes back, I'm not going to feel any excitement. I'm not going to feel like...
Because you just assume he's going to come back.
I'm just going to be in the theater, watching the movie, and I'm going to be like, oh, okay, is this the scene where he's going to come back? Is this the scene? Is this the scene? That's the scene. Okay.
Like most superhero movies, Blade was one of the only ones to like kill off a character just to bring him back. Mm-hmm. Not just Marvel, but like DC movies too. They don't just randomly bring killed off characters because in comic books that shit goes on forever. But in a movie, it's a different medium. You can't just kill off people and bring them back because you're just wasting time. It's a movie. There's a limited amount of time you have, and just killing off a character just so you can bring him back in a year doesn't work in a movie.
Right.
I think that's where, like, because a lot of comic book fanboy... That's just weird. This movie has, like, 4 quadrants of people who like it, or people who other feel about it. There's comic book fans who love it because of all the references. This movie chooses to have a lot of, like, innuendos and references to millions of comic books. And just small hints. And it's fine. The touches are fine when it doesn't hurt the plot. But this movie chooses to make a reference over a well-structured story. That's its biggest problem. But there's comic book fans who like the references so much, they choose to be like, well, it's like the comics. Whether that's good or not. Like, haha, isn't this movie so clever and I feel like I'm reading a comic book, but it's a movie. Okay. But then you have the comic book fans over here, and they're like, okay, I get the references, but this is doing injustice to the story. This is nothing like the real characters. So they don't like it. And then you have these people up in this corner. And in this corner, these are people who don't read comic books, but they're like, well, the action was really fun, and I liked, like, all, like, the cool visuals and everything. It was fun. And then you have these group of people at the bottom. They don't read comic books, and they cannot stand the story because it's too distracting for them to like. And here's where the majority of, like, online critics lie. Or not necessarily online critics, but film critics are mainly in this bubble. So the people up here who read the comic books and get the references are like, well, what the fuck do they know? They don't even read comic books. See, I've read the comic book. So all the details they're missing, I know because it was in the book. Okay. But these are different people. These are different characters in this movie. So these in-between-the-line stuff, you know, doesn't apply here because they've changed it. These people who don't like the movie aren't just hating on DC. They're not. Some maybe are. I can't speak for all of them. But I'm sure there's a lot of people on here. Shit, the Dark Knight series was super successful. Like, you can't use, oh, there's Marvel fanboys or Marvel paid them out as a fucking excuse. Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman have the same problem. They're not really well done stories. And I think when most critics go see a movie, that's what they focus on. A lot of other superhero movies, like the Marvel movies, are they super deep? They have their moments, but they're not. It's character driven. They are more likable characters. They're more focused characters, and the story, although maybe simple by comparison, you understand what's happening. This movie, they don't throw you off. So when someone says they don't like these movies, it makes sense. Like, I had people I worked with hate this movie, but they don't read comic books. Because they have no idea what the fuck is going on. They don't know these characters. They just know, well, I saw the other Batman movies and he's nothing like that Batman, so I don't know this Batman. I saw the other Superman movies. He's nothing like that Superman. I don't get this Superman.
Right.
And this story is just all over the damn place. Just because you can fill in the gaps and you can, like, understand these characters more, but the movie does a shit job at doing it. So it's not the fact that, like, they hate DC or, like, they just want Marvel to... They just prefer Marvel. Marvel's just making more likable movies. Are they more formulaic? Sure. But they're more watchable. They're more entertaining. This movie, like, the thing about all the DC movies, they have ideas. And they're almost there. But they're trying to do too much at one time, and they're trying way too hard to be serviceable or fan servicey and, like, get it. They're trying to get, like, a niche crowd.
Right.
But if you want to be successful like Marvel, you can't just be, like, the cool kid. You can't just be the cool movies, the edgy, dark movies that, like, oh, you really only get it if you read the comics. Why the fuck would I... Why would you need to make a movie if you have to read the comics?
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna put it like this. Most people, like, that I know are big Harry Potter fans, but also most people that I know did not read any of the books.
Mm-hmm.
I've read all of the books. So, yeah, I respected the movies for what they did to adapt to the big screen. But I also, when someone came and talked to me and was like, oh, I didn't like this because that didn't make sense, I never explained them. Like, oh, well, in page 332,
Right.
you know,
Well, if you just read the book, it would make sense.
Yeah,
it's like,
I never said anything like that.
You shouldn't have to read a book to understand the movie.
Because a good movie can stand on its own,
mm-hmm.
adaptation or not. And that's the way a movie will always be viewed as, or at least it should be. Because there are plenty of movies that are adaptations of books or poems or whatever, and they stand on their own just fine. You know, like No Country for Old Men. I didn't know that was a book.
Right.
But that's like one of the best movies I've ever seen. So, I think people that are complaining need to look at things objectively and not just because they like something. I love Power Rangers. But the movie, all the movies actually, are just very subpar.
At most, yeah.
I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But the two recent movies,
Nope.
Terrible. So, you have to look at things objectively.
Right. Like, obviously, I love Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck the Amazing Spider-Man movies.
Yep.
And then Spider-Man 3. I'm a big fan of it. But it'd be so easy to be like, well, that was in the comic book, and, like, I get the reference, and, like, this character's in it, and that's correct. It's so easy to give a movie points because, like, oh, it's like the book. And you can. But if the movie itself just doesn't work as a movie,
Mm-hmm.
it's not a good movie. Then that's just kind of like what you have to... You have to watch a movie as a movie.
Right.
I shouldn't have to read something before the movie.
Mm-hmm.
What's the point of it being a movie if I just have to read something? I might as well just read it. The adaptations this is pulling from are better. So if that's the case, just read the comic.
Yeah.
This could have been a good movie. It had no reason, but it was so easy for this movie to be good. It just, like Man of Steel. Even worse, though, it lacks focus. There's too much going on. They're trying to set up more than what they need to. And I think this movie could have benefited from taking a few characters out. Probably taking out the whole Death of Superman and Doomsday subplot. Just take out Doomsday altogether. Doomsday's not necessary. Make the movie about Batman versus Superman. Just do that. And you would have had a much better movie and more people would have liked it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's as simple as you can put it. It looks good. It's really kind of a chore to sit through until like the last half. But then the final act with Doomsday just kind of takes you out of the movie again.
Yeah. Honestly, out of the 3 hours, probably 20 minutes is enjoyable. Maybe even less. It's really just certain shots, certain scenes, certain lines of dialogue. I'm like, okay, that was great.
Mm-hmm. It's not terrible.
Yeah.
This movie isn't terrible. I can't say this movie's terrible. Like Man of Steel. It's not terrible. I can't say this movie's a shitty movie. Mm-hmm. Especially the Ultimate Edition. The Ultimate Edition really did clean stuff up.
Yeah. I think it's a bad movie, but that's only because, like you said, it's so easy. It should have been an easy job to make this movie a great movie. This movie should be able to stand the test of time and, you know, be in that top 10 best comic book movies. But it wasn't. So I think it is a bad movie, but I do think at the same time it's a watchable movie.
Final grade for the movie. Sadly, it's really tilting here, but...
Yeah,
If you have no desire to see this movie, you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
If you really want to see this movie, go ahead and watch it. Watch the Ultimate Edition. But if this is a movie that you were dying to see, you're probably not going to like it. This movie is really a movie that works if you wanted to see it. And even then, some people were disappointed. And sadly, it does not pick up from here. So next time, we're going to get to... the most unnecessary DC movie out of the 4 we've gotten so far. Take that for what you will.
Bah!